nightmare of a situation across Southern California is over. We know now that authorities surrounded a cabin, that the man you see on the right-hand side of your screen had taken 2 people hostage at least a couple of days ago, according to our sources in Los Angeles. We know that one of those 2 people escaped. We know that Chris Dorner, for whom they've been searching, took off in a vehicle. We know that at some point, Fish and Game officers spotted him. We know from our sources that he had a shootout with Fish and Game, vehicle to vehicle, that he crashed the vehicle he had stolen and ran into a cabin and began a chase, and a standoff ensued. There was a shootout, according to authorities, and then the shooting stopped. Authorities fired tear gas into the building. Nothing happened. Along the way, 1 shot was heard, either going into the house, the cabin, or coming from inside the cabin. The obvious suggestion is that he may have killed himself, but we have no way of knowing that at this moment. What we do know that either because of the tear gas or something else, this cabin went up in flames. Just before that, a perimeter that was stretched all around, roadblocks for every car going through, was lifted. And authorities lifted the air travel ban as well and allowed helicopters to come in. And we began to see what you see now. The remains of that cabin, it up in flames. Christopher Dorner nowhere to be found. Authorities appearing to be on stand down. And this man who had promised to kill so many, who had a hit list of cop after cop, had killed family members of police officers, who vowed in a 20-page manifesto online that he would get his name back. Throughout this manifesto, it was name, N-A-M-E, in all caps. That's what he wanted. He wanted justice and he wanted retaliation. And he promised, you will eventually learn that I've been wronged. And for this reason, this man who all said was so mild-mannered and such a good guy went off and began murdering across the Southland. Not just those he had targeted, but their relatives as well. And in that manifesto, he had promised, I will kill again. The carnage will be widespread. And as we look now at that cabin in flames, it appears only part of his manifesto came true. It appears at this hour that the nightmare in Los Angeles is over. Trace, I'm guessing that at some point soon we'll hear from authorities.
At some point soon we will, Shep, but to kind of add to what you were saying about that manifesto, Christopher Dorner also vowed that he would not come out of this alive, and that appears to be the case right now, promising to bring asymmetrical warfare to the Los Angeles Police Department, where there were 40 names on that manifesto, and by asymmetrical meaning he wanted to keep them off balance, to come at them when they least expected it, and he did that on a couple of occasions. We have been told the fire department, Shep, is about 200 yards away, and the police department is telling the fire department to stand down, to sit there and watch while that cabin burns. And now you can see your first pictures of the actual cabin, and it is burning, and there is not a single report of anybody exiting that cabin. Again, as you said, there was 1 shot that was heard to be fired right before the cabin was fully engulfed in flames, and then ammunition could be heard going off because, as we expected, Christopher Dorner appeared to be very well armed, and now they will watch this thing burn, and then the investigation will begin. But when the air traffic ban has been lifted and when the roadblocks are being taken down, it appears they believe the conclusion is the one that they were seeking, or at least one of the options they were seeking when this thing began about 2 hours ago, Shep. And again, for the edification of our audience, this was a man who may have been hiding for at least a couple of days and maybe longer, just a few hundred yards away from the police command center, as well as where the media compound was, the live shots going on day and night, the police figuring out strategies, and Christopher Dorner, maybe all the while, maybe part of the while, just a few hundred yards away, plotting his next move. His next move happened today when he carjacked a truck, took off, ran into Fish and Game, and then ran into deputies. Shot 1 deputy as he was going inside the cabin. And then, according to reporting, as he went out the back of the cabin, another deputy went around the back. He pulled the trigger and shot the second deputy. 1 of those deputies died. The other said to be in critical condition. And the man who waged war on Southern California police killed 2, wounded 3, and killed another young couple. And now, Shep, this appears to have come to a burning and violent end. Shep. Oh, I just said I want to just point out, Shep, before I let this go, I want to just point out, because we have been all day long relying with the air ban in place, we've been relying all day long on scanner traffic and reports coming from eyewitnesses on the scene. I want to play you a little bit, if I can, of that scanner traffic. Listen.
Yes, for information, Big Bear is working a call up in Big Bear at 225, possibly for the subject we've been looking for. Victim in the Big Bear calls advising that they heard a couple of shots after the vehicle was taken.
Okay, vehicle's clear. There's a silenced sniper rifle sitting in the back seat.
Trying the plate.
10-4. Paul, do we believe he's still here, or is he in another vehicle here? That's a satchel containing multiple smoke grenades and CS canisters.
Fishing game was shot at, and they returned fire. Subject continue on.
Copy. Fish and game units were shot at and they returned fire.
Confirm they want us to stop all traffic and check it prior to coming off the hill.
That was from earlier. You can see and hear the tense voices of the police officers involved. We are just getting notice, Shep, that the ammunition continues to go off inside that cabin. And now the fire department wants to know if there are propane tanks that could go off. There don't appear to be any, but again, the fire department is standing down. Shep.